Jabbing her key fob at the car, she locked it and stormed past the builders, her high heels stabbing the tarmac. A lesser woman might have tottered, but in their wildest dreams, no one would describe Clem as a lesser woman. She had lived in high heels since she was 16, when it became apparent that she would not get any taller than 5 foot. Now, at 26, she could run, jump, and dance in stilettos, and she was easily capable of storming off in them as well. As she headed into the services, the builder shook his head in astonishment. His mate was now crying with laughter. What had started as a friendly bit of banter with a pretty girl had resulted in a total dressing down, and people sitting in other cars smirking at him. When Clem returned to her car, she was relieved the van had left. She didn't care so much, but she knew she was angry at the moment, and engaging in a second shouting match was not considered appropriate. Apparently it was never appropriate, but if you didn't stand up to people, they would walk all over you. Pulling her St. Anthony medallion out from under her collar, she gave it a quick kiss. As usual, when she felt she was losing control of her temper, she would remember her father's words. She had been 12 years old, and sobbing with angry tears and a black eye from another fight. As he knelt down beside her on the floor, he cleaned her cut knees and then placed his medallion around her neck. St. Anthony has never let me down. If ever I felt lost or alone, I would say a few words to him, and I'd feel a bit better. Now, the next time you think you are going to lose your temper, remember St. Anthony. And let's see if he can help you out, hey? Clem remembered how he kissed her on her head and told her to run along. 4 years later, he was gone. Becoming a de facto mother at 16 had not sat easily on her shoulders, but she had been determined not to let her sisters down. For a few years, the lack of her parents' calming influence had driven her a little wild, but as she'd grown up and got better at her new role, she began to settle. It had also helped that her sisters needed her. She learnt how to moderate herself, and Ari, her older sister, had helped enormously. And, of course, on the bleakest of days, she would grip her father's little medallion and pray for a miracle. As she switched on the car radio, someone was waffling on about how something was a learning curve. Try losing your parents at 16 if you want a learning curve. She laughed grimly and drove off to get petrol. She didn't do much driving, and this car was new to her, so when she pulled up alongside the wrong pump, she had to endure someone shouting at her again. "Do you look like an HGV, love?" Clem didn't have a bloody clue what that meant, but she decided she'd had enough chippy northerners for one day and bit her lip. Obviously, HGV meant some sort of vehicle that wasn't her top-of-the-range 4x4. Muttering to herself, she drove forward, then reversed, delighted with the little reversing camera that popped up. She did love this car. It had been her uncle's, but Ariana insisted that she had it. Ari felt that it was better suited to life in Scotland, besides which Ari didn't want her children in a car that she hadn't properly investigated. The light was fading as she passed the border into Scotland, but she hadn't expected to arrive in daylight. It was early May after all, and Scotland was famed for its lighter nights. But she had been surprised by just how early the darkness had fallen. Looking through the windscreen, she could see the clouds building. A storm was coming to Scotland. She felt that she was physically driving into the night, and began to picture bales of soft cotton velvet in hues of purple, grey, and black. Catching herself in a yawn, she decided that she would pull over for a rest at the next services. She stopped again for some uninspiring food and a brutal coffee, and caught up with a bit of work. Her chips were a curious mix of stone cold and hot enough to melt girders. She mixed them up in an attempt to spread the warmth and save her from burning her tongue again, and called Ari. "Are you there yet? What's it like?" "Not a hope. Think I've got a few more hours of driving, so I've pulled into the services for some tea and a spot of work." Her destination was Ruacoddy Castle, on the edge of the Cairnryan National Park. According to what she had read, the area had lots of mountains, but presumably no one actually lived there. I mean, why would they? No shop.